This work? Okay. My name is Dan Flynn. It's been a privilege and an honor to represent you in the Texas House since 2002. We have come from a long way. It was the first class that the Republican majority took over in 130 years. We had major shortfalls several times during my tenure, but at the end of the day, Texas remains the place to live, raise your family, and do business. I'm very proud of my record. I think the people in Austin and the people here in the district know that I'm a person that can get things done. I've served as chairman of the Pensions Committee. I've served on the Defense, Veteran Affairs, Financial Institutions Committee, and County Affairs. And during this last session, the bill that I was most pleased with was we outlawed foreign law, Sharia law in Texas. It is a model bill all over the nation. Many other states are already picking it up and adopting the same bill that we served. Also, when I went into this session, we had a little over 300 pensions in the state of Texas. $66 billion in unfunded liabilities. The city of Houston, city of Dallas, the ERS and the TRS were all in a situation where they needed help. At the end of our session, all of the pensions in Texas are either actuarially sound or well on a plan to do that. I look forward to any of your questions.
Mr. Slate, 2 minutes.
Thank you. And thank you all for showing up here tonight and staying here through all the debates. And my name is Brian Slayton. I'm a candidate for here in Texas House Representative District 2, which is Hunt, Hopkins, and Van Zandt counties. I was in the ministry for 13 years as a youth and family minister. Now I work in our family business doing taxes, bookkeeping, and payroll. About 3 years ago, I live in Royce City, Hunt County. Our family farm, 5 generations, is in Ben Wheeler. But I live in Royce City, Hunt County, and a guy from Dallas was trying to build a toll road through a country out there from Greenville into Dallas. Nobody likes toll roads, and a toll road in the country has never worked. And we couldn't get any help to oppose that. And a bunch of citizens, we joined in and fought, and we stopped that road. And after we stopped it, that guy from Dallas admitted in an interview the road wasn't needed anyways. And I was looking more and more at what was going on in Austin. I was frustrated we didn't get any help to oppose that toll road in the country. And I saw what was going on in the Texas House and how it was a mess. And how the House leadership was propping up and supporting Democrats and allowing them to fight multiple chairmanships. They had 2/3 in the Texas House. They were half the committee chairs were Democrats. And I saw, conservative legislation, our Republican Party platform legislation dying, saying we ran out of time. And I got tired of hearing we ran out of time or it was just a small victory and we need to be happy with it. And I was frustrated that the main focus was to end daylight savings time. And as I'm talking to people, I hear I'm frustrated about their property taxes, hear people frustrated what's going on in our state. And I'm telling you, I did fight against that toll road, and I want to go down to Austin officially and fight for our values down in Austin. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll begin our questioning with candidates, starting with Brad.
Mr. Flynn, this one's for you. You filed HB 206 in the last session, which was defeated 112 to 14. It would have allowed members of the Texas State Guard access to veteran benefits. Why did you file this bill, and why was it so soundly defeated?
I did file that bill, and the reason I filed it was the Texas Adjutant General and the Commanding General of the Texas Guard asked us to do it for a retention and recruiting effort. It was totally misrepresented on the floor that this was a bill that was going to, I think the term was water down veterans' benefit. In other words, it would not reach the standard that some wanted it to do. But the facts are, you would have had to serve the Texas State Guard for 15 years consecutively to receive those benefits, which would have made money for the state of Texas. And if you're serving in the regular military, it's only 89 days. So the people that take you and keep you safe in hurricanes, keep you safe in floods and fires, they were entitled to benefits that we thought would be good, and the General Land Officer thought it would be good too.
Any comment, response?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
This bill was the worst bill of the 85th legislative session. No bill was beaten more soundly than this bill. Even the Democrats didn't want this bill. And the reason why, the entire House Veterans Caucus opposed this bill. The Texas State Guard does good things, but they don't go to boot camp. They're not given weapons. They can't be deployed. And this bill was going to give veteran status to people in the State Guard. And that's why the entire House Veterans Caucus opposed it, is because you don't give someone the title. It wasn't what they were getting. It was the fact that they were getting the same requirement. And
Brother?
You may respond.
It's totally wrong. What I'm saying is this. What we were trying to do was a recruiting and a retention bill. It was not the worst bill that was filed in the Texas House. It was allowing people not to be redefined as a veteran from a foreign war. It was entitling them to have a benefit of a loan that would make money for the state of Texas. And it would give those people some issue that they would be able to have a benefit. They are volunteers, and they do a lot of recruiting. I've been on deployment for the State Guard numerous times, so don't say that they're not on deployment. Thank you.
I was referring to being in harm's way. And it was the worst defeated based on how they voted for it. And like I say, even the Democrats voted against this that would give things away. And the question was, people that are in the State Guard were going to get this after 15 years. People that are in military or National Guard got the benefits after 20 years or 20 credit years. And the question to answer is, why 15 years? My opponent entered the Guard in 05 and his Chief of Staff entered the Guard in 02. And only 14 people voted for this bill. That's how bad it was.
Do we get to? Because that's false. First of all, 15 years of service in the State Guard, 89 days in the United States Army. I qualified for my veterans benefits when I served in a full-time military capacity. And this was not a bill that I would have taken advantage of, because I already have and enjoy veterans benefits. Tell me you're not in harm's way when you go down to the southern border of the state of Texas, fly in a helicopter and riding up and down in a gunboat with 250 caliber machine guns, or ride a horse or walk. I think that they're entitled to some benefit.
And if I may, in the past, my opponent has claimed what he did when he went down to Austin, he secured the border. And this was a question that happened at the back mic from one of the representatives from that area. He asked my opponent, are you calling my district a war zone? So what I want to know is, did we secure the border, or is it the war zone you described? Because those are two separate things, the way you described it, the border.
You may.
Yeah. When you're going down the Rio Grande River and people on the other side are pointing weapons at you and you're having to wear body armor, I would say it is pretty difficult. And these people do it on a regular basis, and there are 100 State Guard people that they're full-time, and I think the fact that the state of Texas has spent $13 billion securing that border without any help from the federal government speaks for itself.
All right, that's it. Our next question will be from Ken.
This is for Mr. Slayton. What is your position on term limits? If you're elected, are you willing to serve a limited number of terms? And if so, how many?
I am for term limits. I've knocked on thousands and thousands of doors in this district. I wasn't for them, but I guarantee you, all the doors I've knocked and talked to me and you're not you're not for long-term career politicians. You are for term limits. And like I say, our founders intended for people to go down. The session's 140 days every other year. They wanted you to go down to Austin, serve, and then come home, work, go back and serve, and then eventually send somebody else down there. And so, yes, I'm for term limits. And as far as how long I would serve, first of all, I'd have to win every election 2 years after, and so it's kind of hard to predict, but I guarantee you, I don't intend to stay there that long. I don't like Austin. I don't like Travis County, but I'm willing to go down there and live and fight for you for 140 days. I can tell you that.
Heard one of the candidates earlier tonight say that we do have term limits. It's called elections. And I think that it's incumbent upon every one of us to go out and be sure that we do exactly what you're doing. Government's run by people that show up, and you're here tonight, and I applaud you for doing that. I haven't seen a term limit bill that I felt like was one that would be meeting the equity. And quite frankly, yes, I'm sure there are groups here that really would like to see an enforcement of some type of a term limit. I'm not opposed to voting on that. I just haven't seen one that I think meets what the requirements of people are. But the bottom line is, you run for office every 2 years.
Mr. Slade?
I can tell you several times I've knocked on the doors of people like y'all here, and they said, Mr. Slayton, I'm going to vote for you. But I promise you this, if you win, I'm not voting for you ever again. That's how long I want you to stay in office. And I think if I'm going to represent y'all, I need to understand that and realize I'm not going down there for a lifetime.
Okay, our next question is
We don't get to...
you need another response?
Well, I'm curious. He said he wants to serve one term. How effective can a freshman legislator be? Because the facts are plain and simple. A freshman legislator passes no bills. With the most, it would be one bill for a session. I think the whole idea is, you know, if you're going to have brain surgery, you want somebody with experience. You don't want somebody in Austin representing you that doesn't know how the process works. Because whether you like the process or not, it's what we live within.
If I may, let me give you a real-life example of what a freshman can do in the Texas House of Representatives. Victoria Niave, I may not be saying her name right, she's from Garland. She's an ultra-liberal Democrat. She passed more bills out of the Texas House this session than the entire Freedom Caucus. And the Freedom Caucus, after the session was over, wound up being ranked the most conservative members of the Texas House. So I beg to differ. If you are a freshman, you go down there and either you're a Democrat or you kiss that ring of power that's the House leadership. Yes, you can pass bills because she actually did it.
You can respond if you like.
There you go again. I think you need a few more facts.
Okay, I'll give you a few. Texas House of Representatives has two-thirds Republican control, and she passed more bills than the entire Freedom Caucus. I hope that helped.
It didn't.
It was out of order, so it didn't help. But thank you for the information. We're going to move on to the next question. Mr. Flynn, in previous session rankings, you typically scored in the top 10 to 15% of the most conservative Texas House members. In the last session, your scores in some of those conservative rankings dropped you into the top 35% or even less. Why was that, and what can your constituents expect if you are reelected?
I'm happy to discuss any bill that I passed, any bill that I voted on. Bottom line is, when you look at a scorecard, it can be reading anything you want it to read. And the rating groups are pretty well owned by outside interests. I think that if you look at my record, I vote for you, not somebody in West Texas and not from a liberal university in Houston. And I think that's the bottom line. I want to be sure that I always represent the people that vote for me, the people I live with, people I go to church with, and that's where my record is.
Yes, sir. Ms. Slade?
In this district, I think that you wanted property tax reform. And it was the Texas House that killed it. And in fact, when it came up for vote in the special session, and it didn't include our district, my opponent said nothing and voted to move passage and just vote on the bill as is. I would be back at the back mic fighting for you. Another thing they score on, one thing in particular they scored on, a bill came up, and we're told we have to wait for bills to go through the process, right? We have to wait for things. It's slow, it takes time. This past session, my opponent was ranked or scored on a vote that fast-tracked the minimum wage increase in the state of Texas. Fast-tracked means it didn't have to wait in line. Folks, the minimum wage increase is a part of the Democrat Party platform. It is not a part of our Republican Party platform. It got fast-tracked, not pro-life issues. So, yeah.
Response?
The governor and the lieutenant governor all said this was one of the most conservative legislative sessions that we've ever had. Even the Lieutenant Governor said that, and the former Speaker of the House did. I think that the session speaks for itself. We ended the session meeting all of the needs, not all of the wants and desires, but we did take care of an opportunity to have strong pro-life. We had a good idea of how we could work on border security, and we're looking at property tax, and you're a little off. The property tax bill that went through the House was a good bill.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, respond.
Well, the property tax didn't pass in the regular session. We had to go into a special session because the Texas House failed to pass a TxDOT sunset bill. So they cost the taxpayers a lot of money having a special session. And when Governor Abbott said his 20 items, he said his 20 agenda items, my opponent signed on to all of them before the special session started. But they quit a day early, they didn't pass half of them, and Joe Strauss called them manure.
Mr. Flynn.
The Texas House is not why we had the special session. The special session was called because the Lieutenant Governor did not allow the sunset bill to go through the process. That's why we had to have a special session. He did it because he wanted some other issues that he dealt with, and he knew that we had to have the sunset bill in order to continue the agency's existence. So I think you're off in what you're talking about and what you're saying.
Go ahead, Mr.
After
Slade.
Which is kind of unusual.
Go ahead, Mr. Slade.
Well, I
After
wasn't
the
when you
regular
started talking. I guess I am now, but you started talking before I finished before.
I'm sorry I talked too soon.
That's right.
Governor Abbott, after the session, he said that he would call a second special session if he thought House leadership would change. He blamed the House leadership and said he would call a second one if House leadership would change. He didn't think they would, so he thought he'd get involved in some House races. He never said anything about the Lieutenant Governor, and the only people blaming the Lieutenant Governor is Joe Strauss, who has been censured by over 60 counties to never run as a Republican ever again in the state of Texas.
Okay, we're going to end that topic and move on. Brad, you have the next question.
This is for both candidates, starting with Mr. Slayton. Do you agree to support the Speaker candidate selected by the majority vote in the Republican caucus, and do you support the State Republican Executive Committee's censure of the current Speaker because it appears he hindered half of Governor Greg Abbott's 20-item agenda, including a proposal to regulate which bathrooms transgender Texans can use?
Absolutely. I plan on whatever the Republican caucus decides who to vote for Speaker, I'll gladly support that. And, you know, the Speaker Strauss has set one heck of a legacy. At the end of the session, there were Democrats wearing wristbands that said, "Thank God for Joe Strauss." And he's been censured by over 60 counties, which is more than 50% of Texas population, saying they don't want him to ever run as a Republican ever again. And I'll tell you this right now, I don't care how big a check Joe Strauss sends me, I will Facebook Live and burn it or tear it up or whatever it is. I will not take money from that man because you here in this county, y'all passed a resolution to censure Joe Strauss, your executive committee here, and I wouldn't disrespect you by taking his money.
Joe Strauss is not in the Texas House. He's no longer the Speaker. The caucus has passed a resolution or passed a bill that we would all support whoever the caucus selects as our candidate for Speaker. I'm very happy because one of my closest friends, strong conservative Phil King, is probably the front runner for that position. He would do a great job if he is selected and we eventually have him as the Speaker. I'm curious why you still want to fuss and complain about Joe Strauss. He's gone. He is gone.
I'll tell you why. So the Democrats...
You don't even know him.
No, I don't. Yep. But I can watch. You don't have to know him. You can watch what goes on. He got elected to Speaker with 11 liberal Republicans and 65 Democrats chose him. Okay? And the machine is set up. The Democrats gave up control of Texas after 100 and something years. Republicans took over. Do you think they just said, "Oh, shucks, we lost. We got to go do something else"? No. They ran in the Republican primaries and they did what they did to get Joe Strauss here, and the machine is still there. Joe Strauss was there for a time, but I guarantee you the Democrats are looking for another sellout Republican to take over Speaker of the House.
Response.
I voted against Joe Strauss because of the process, and that's why I did. After that vote, in the next few sessions, he was elected pretty well unanimously in every case. And so I think to continue to kick that can, when you can look at Texas. Look at Texas. Texas is the best place to live and be doing business here. We've had an extraordinary run, and very proud of the things that have happened in the Texas legislature. And yeah, there's a lot of things we could have done differently, but we are the best place to live, raise a family, and do business.
Okay, our next question will be from Ken.
This is for Mr. Flynn. What were the best bills for conservatives that you supported and passed in the last session? And what were the most significant bills you supported that did not pass, and why? And what happened to SB 1 regarding property tax reform? Why did you vote to delay, which ultimately led it to failing, and it didn't get voted on at all in the last few days of the session?
Wow, you write all that down for me?
If you want me to read it again, I would.
Let me see if I can remember.
Okay.
My most significant bill that I felt like was one that concerned all of the people that I talked to in this district, and that was to outlaw foreign law. If you know what Sharia law is, if you know how devastating it can be, particularly for a big segment of our society. We passed that bill. It was unanimous in the House. It was unanimous in the Senate, and the governor signed it very simply, very quickly. As far as my positions on pro-life issues, we had a great pro-life session. I think we did a lot of things by defunding Planned Parenthood, by taking care of those bills for baby parts, which is it's hard to believe that anyone would even want to consider that. You wouldn't do that to a puppy, and yet we were doing it to human beings. I'm right out of time.
Ms. Slate?
Yes.
And it's a rebuttal. It's a 30-second rebuttal.
Oh, okay.
Because the question was to Mr. Flynn.
Okay. So it was because of those conservative fighters at the back mic in the Texas House, we got that Schaefer Amendment. Those were the strong conservatives. The bill wasn't already that strong. It was those guys. And, property tax reform died. I already mentioned, died in the regular session. The Senate passed it. And then the Senate passed it in the special session. And the House, once again, failed to get it passed. And that's the number one issue when I'm at the doors talking to people is property tax reform.
Go ahead, Mr. Flynn.
The property tax bill that went through the House was a good bill. What we were not wanting to do was put a unfunded mandate on all the public, on the counties, on the cities, on the schools, and that's why it was not one that went forward. The bottom line is until, and I think I heard one of the other candidates earlier say, until we find a better way to fund public education, we're going to continue to have property tax problems. We're working on that, and I think that you're going to see significant improvement because the governor has declared what he would like to see us do.
Ms. Slade?
The Texas House was complaining that the 4% threshold was too high, or too low, actually. They said it was too low and unrealistic, and they fought it and they opposed it. Now that the special session is over, and I believe this was back in December, Governor Abbott said he wanted it at 2.5% and wanted to end all unfunded mandates. So what the Texas House couldn't do at 4% during campaign season, they're on board for it, 2.5. It's a problem.
I signed on to all of the governor's bills, and I think that having a cap like that really wasn't going to reduce property tax dollar-wise for anyone. It was more of a eyewash for folks.
Okay, now we'll have our closing statements, beginning with Mr. Slayton. 1 minute each, and audience, you're welcome to respond to each candidate after they have their closing statement. Mr. Slayton.
Thank you very much, and I just want to ask you, go back by my table, and I'd be happy to talk to you, and I'd like to show you. I don't want to just say the voting record changed. I want to show you where the voting record changed, to back it up with charts from conservative organizations. And then after you're done, go by my opponent's table, pick up his push card. And he's endorsed by the Texas Association of Business. During the 85th session, what they did, spent most of their time doing, was protecting this idea. If you're a man and then think you're a woman and want to go to the woman's bathroom or woman's shower, you can do that. That's what the Texas Association of Business was fighting for in the 85th. And then you go and look, the TSTA, in the last gubernatorial election, they endorsed the ultra-liberal Wendy Davis and not Governor Abbott. And you'll notice I have all the conservative organization endorsements my opponent used to have. Thank you. Vote for Brian Slayton on March 6th. Thank you.
Mr. Flynn, 1 minute.
First of all, thank you, panel, for allowing this to be, and we appreciate all the people who did. As far as this election, I think it continues to be one of the more important ones because we need to have people that can go to Austin and get things done. I believe everybody that knows my record knows that I'm a can-do person. As far as a scorecard voting, all of those conservative, so-called conservative groups are now pretty well owned and controlled by a group out of West Texas. And so that kind of tells you right there that they're by one individual. I think that the Texas Alliance for Life and the Texas Association of Business, probably a big percentage of everybody in this audience is involved with the Texas Association of Business. They're the largest business group in the state of Texas, and I'm very proud to have their endorsement. As far as the pro-life group, all of them but one have endorsed me, and I appreciate that. And the Texas NRA, the Texas State Rifle Association NRA, have both given me an A+, and I've been their legislator of the year. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Randy McDonald, and I'm running for District Court Judge. For the past 7 years, I've served as your county court at law judge, where I've heard a variety of cases. I've heard criminal cases such as DWI and domestic violence cases. I've heard civil cases such as motor vehicle accidents. I hear half of the family law cases in Van Zandt County, such as divorces and child custody cases. I hear all of the contested probate matters in Van Zandt County, which can often involve multiple parties and financial institutions and often involve millions of dollars. In fact, I have presided over nearly 150 jury trials in the past 7 years, where you, as the citizen jurors, make the final decision in those cases. There is no backlog of cases to be tried or heard in the county court at law. I would like to bring the same leadership skill set to the district court. I have 32 years of military service, 7 years active duty and the rest reserves. I have served 3 overseas tours. I'm a graduate of the Command and General Staff College. I'm also a graduate of War College. And I just retired last September as a Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Army Reserve. I've been a prosecutor. I've sent rapists and criminals away for long sentences and supervised an office of prosecutors. As an attorney, I've represented doctors in hospitals and also individuals in hundreds of cases, such as personal injury, wills, and family law matters. The district court is the highest court in our county. It hears matters of life and death. It is the only court that can hear capital punishment and death penalty cases. If you elect me, I will reduce that backlog. Thank you for your vote.
Mr. Martin, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir. You know, as a Christian, I want my work to be meaningful, and that's what led me to law school when my oldest son was just a baby. I wanted to go to law school to not only provide for my family, but to do important work, to help people with important decisions. And that's what led me to Van Zandt County Law School. Started working for the Van Zandt County DA's office and found a passion for prosecuting crimes. Right out of the gate, I started prosecuting crimes for CPS, abuse and neglect of children. Quickly thereafter, took over the main prosecution role for felony cases, where I tried murder cases just right outside 1 year of being licensed. In 2011, I was blessed to take office for you as your elected criminal district attorney. And for the past 7 years, I've been bringing vision and innovation to the DA's office in hopes to make it better than I found it, to reducing backlogs. The 150 cases that he has presided over, well, I prepared those with my assistant DAs, and also prepared the felony trials. The 3 successful capital murder prosecutions were during my tenure as DA. At 33 years old, I brought that vision to the court, and I have vision now that I want to bring to the district court. Vision to bring innovation, to bring technology, to bring fair, impartial, and consistent application of the law, to not rule with politics and personal interest, but to rule on the law, and the law alone. I'm uniquely qualified for this position because in the last 11 years, that's what I've been doing, is prosecuting felony cases, handling CPS cases. In the last 7 years, specifically working in the district court in the 294. I've been handling that work every day, and I'm equipped to continue that work, and I look forward to your support and your vote.
Ms. Brumbelow?
Good evening. My name is Tina Brumbelow, and I live in Van, Texas, and I'm running for District Judge of the 294 Judicial District Court. As people know, that this is a single district court that services 54,000 citizens for this 54,000 citizens for Van Zandt County. It's a court that's comprised of 40% criminal law related cases, 30% general civil litigation, and 30% family law. I'm uniquely qualified for this position because my wide range of legal practice, including both criminal defense, general civil litigation, and my extensive expertise in family law, everything from divorce, termination, child custody, child support, and adoptions. With regard to this particular court, I believe that the citizens of Van Zandt County deserve a judge with the highest level of professional integrity, that will have all the energy and work ethic necessary to move this demanding docket. I would like to continue the progress and the programs that have been put in place by Judge Teresa Drum, including the recruitment of court-appointed attorneys' fees and the collection of child support. I'm a graduate of South Texas College of Law. I graduated from there in 2001. I've been licensed to practice in the state of Texas for 17 years, 13 years of which I've had my own law firm. I'm here with my amazing husband tonight, and we reside in Van, Texas with our 3 children, mine by marriage. Amber is actually 21 and is in college. Melody is 19 years old and doing international ministry in Cambodia. And Lane is a freshman in high school, and he is actively involved in the Van fishing team in the FFA. We are proud members of the Church of Garden Valley, and I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you guys tonight.
Okay, thank you. Our first question will come from Brad.
This is for all candidates. Start with you, Mr. McDonald. Have you ever been professionally disciplined by the State Bar or Judicial Commission? And if so, how many times? And what were the circumstances and outcome?
No, zero, never. Easy.
Mr. Martin.
Same answer, except I've never been a judge, so I haven't been subject to the Judicial Commission. But according to the State Bar, I've never been publicly, privately reprimanded in any stretch of the imagination.
Ms. Brumbelow.
My response is the same as Mr. Martin's.
Anybody want to rebut the response? Are we on? Okay, Ken, we'll have the next question.
This is for everybody, but Mr. Martin first. If a mediator was appointed in a case, how would you monitor the performance of the mediator for efficiency and a fair outcome for the parties?
Well, mediation is important in those civil cases, and I make a point to say civil cases, not criminal cases, like some people believe. But in civil cases, mediation is important where the parties may be able to reach an agreement. How do you monitor the mediator? Well, you need to make sure first that you appoint a qualified, competent mediator who's competent at helping parties reach resolutions. You stay in contact with the mediator. You judge them based on the results they get in their cases. And if you're making multiple appointments, you're going to see whether or not the cases are being resolved, whether or not they're removing from your docket. And so I think you have to have communication with your mediator. I think you have to make sure that you're appointing the proper mediator for the job and make sure that they have the subject matter expertise that they need to get the job done.
Ms. Brumbelow?
Yes, mediation is actually governed by Chapter 153 of the Texas Rules of Civil Procedure. It's also governed by Chapter 154 of the Texas Family Code and Chapter 6 of the Texas Family Code with regards to property distribution. Mediation is a confidential setting. It's almost impossible to determine what the fair outcome is based upon a court's perception. A fair outcome is based upon the perception of the litigants, whether the litigants believe that they have a fair outcome or not. We are not at privity and a judicial position to know what the facts were or the circumstances that were discussed. That's the uniqueness of that particular process. What most people don't know is a judge is not always the person that appoints the mediator. More times than not, the mediator is agreed to by the parties, and it's who they choose that they believe that they can put their hands in to make the best decision or encourage them to come to the best negotiation that's best for their family.
Mr. McDonald?
I require mediation in all cases that go to trial in my court. But what some people don't realize is some of the discretion's been taken away from judges in the previous legislative session, where there's now actually a court-appointed list similar to like indigent defense counsel, where if a mediator writes into the court and wants to be placed on your list and the parties do not agree, you have to appoint that mediator. So you may not get the best results, and actually there's some judges trying to change that.
Any rebuttals?
I think it's important to recognize with regards to the Texas Family Code that even though you have mediation, a judge is bound by the decisions of the party when you have a mediated settlement agreement, and they are not able to determine whether or not a property division is fair and equitable, or whether or not an agreement that's reached by two parties as a parent is considered to be in the best interest of the child. They're required to enter a judgment based upon the mediated settlement agreement only.
I would further add that not all cases that go to trial need mediation. I think you need a judge that's got the ability to exercise discernment and understand which parties are close, which parties need mediation. And you got to have the ability in the real life and world experience to know when a case needs to be resolved, when a marriage needs to end, when it's no longer healthy for people to have a lengthened legal process just in the namesake of going to mediation. A court should provide the legal resolution of cases. Not all cases need to go to mediation.
Any others?
I guess I would add that there's been a lot of cases involving debt collection where the debt collection company will come in and they're entitled to a motion for summary judgment against an older individual that has some medical problems or something. And I do require mediation in those cases, and often the debt collection companies, because of the circumstances, will actually forgive the debt. And anyway, it's kind of a good story.
Go ahead, if you have a
I don't
comment.
agree that mediation is required in all circumstances, because we come from a very poor county and people do not realize the cost of mediation and the expense and the burden they're imposing unnecessarily on some of the parties and litigants.
Amen.
All right, our next question will be to Mr. McDonald. How many of your rulings have been appealed and then overturned on appeal, and what is the backlog of cases in your county court at law, and why?
As I said earlier, there's no backlog of cases to be tried in criminal or civil. And what was the other question?
How many of your rulings have been appealed and then overturned on appeal?
I don't really keep track of that. I think it's in line with the state average, which is about 3%.
3% were appealed and overturned, or 3% appealed?
3% may have been overturned, but the vast majority of them are upheld.
Okay, any response?
Well, I think there is a backlog. The reason that there's not a documented backlog in the county court of law is because the court coordinator, under the leadership of the judge of that court, Judge McDonald, is about 100 cases behind, going back to about August of last year. So there's no stated backlog because there's no filing for arraignments and pretrial hearings. So if those cases were judiciously handled, there would be a backlog. There's never going to be a court that doesn't have a backlog if the court is staying on top of its work.
Response, any others? Okay.
I would disagree with that, and I think it's kind of low to start picking on court coordinators and that type of thing, but I disagree with you on that. I think Mary Barker does a fabulous job, and most of the people that have any type of involvement with the court system praises her, and I regularly praise her as the best court manager in the state of Texas, truly. And I'm quite appalled that you would say that. But.
Well, I'm sorry. Facts are facts. I've got the spreadsheet. If you want it, we'll provide it. I'm not trying to be low. The people are here to be informed. I'm giving them the facts.
It's kind of funny that you've never mentioned that before tonight. Why don't you bring that fact up before tonight and wait till this forum?
Rebuttal. Over here, I recognize Ms. Brumbelow.
I can't speak with regards to the criminal setting. However, I do know that I have a case that was on the docket for at least 4 years that we can't get a trial setting for in a civil setting.
And the fact is, it has been brought up multiple times. If you talk to your other elected officials in Zandt County, your district clerk, your county clerk, your district judge, all of the people, the county judge, all of the people that have been involved with working against the 90% rule instituted against us by DPS, this has been an ongoing plaguing problem that has been brought to the county court of law's attention. The fact that it hasn't changed in 2017 is not a surprise to anyone working within the local justice system.
I would say, like the people from Missouri, show me, prove it, Mr. Martin.
I will.
Show us the documentation where you've been complaining of this or asking this to be addressed. This is like one of those gotchas where out of the blue you're bringing something up and it's...
Okay, let me pause right here on this. One of the things that we said in the opening remarks about anything that was said during the debate in responses needed to be documented after the response if requested. We've just had a request, so we'd expect it to be documented. We're going to move on to the next question, which is Brad's.
This is for Mrs. Brumbelow. What experience do you have that makes you more qualified for district judge than your two opponents who have been serving already in the courts in Zandt County as judge and DA respectively?
Thank you very much for the question. I think my experience is rather broad. 17 years licensed to practice in the state of Texas, 13 years running my own law firm. I've handled multi-million-dollar cases. I've handled very complex and very controversial criminal cases in all areas across the state of Texas. I've handled a significant amount of family law cases. Originally, I started out handling general civil litigation cases that engulfed a good majority of my time. I found a great interest in criminal defense, of which I've defended against the best names in the state of Texas by my side. And then eventually my trial experience transpired into representing families of Zandt County and over the state of Texas because that seemed to be the greater need.
That question was for Ms. Brumbelow. Do either of y'all want to make any comments on her statement?
I do not.
Okay, next question is from Ken.
This is for everyone. Mr. McDonald, you'll be first. How would you specifically reduce the backlog of cases and improve efficiency of the district court? And would you transfer felony cases to the county court at law to balance caseloads? Why or why not?
I would do the same thing I'm doing in the county court at law now. I doubled the amount of time that criminal cases are being tried from 2 cases in the last 2 weeks of the month to 4 cases. So I would use the entire 2 weeks of the month for criminal cases. I would also involve the sheriff's office as well to get their opinion on what cases need to be tried. That's also a matter that is a cause of fiscal concern in the county because there's costs for inmates who are having medical procedures, and those cases are often not be tried, and it costs the county money.
Mr. Martin?
Same question?
Yes, sir.
Well, one thing I would do is definitely prioritize the violent crimes to get those cases resolved quicker, because those are where you have true harm. Your murders, your manslaughters, your crimes against children, those need to be handled quickly and more swiftly. I would not try 2 cases a month, because if you do that, you're not going to be able to manage the other cases that need movement through the criminal dockets, and there's not that much space and time available in the district court's docket for 2 trials a month. So what I would do is I would continue working with the sheriff's office as we do now, and ensure that they do have representation as they do now. That's nothing new. Things that he's stating that he would do are things that we've been doing for the past 7 years. So I would continue pushing the violent cases.
Ms. Brumbelow?
Yes, I think the first and foremost thing that we need to do is get all the different entities working together with each other. The district court working with the sheriff's department, working with the DA's office, and not having everybody butting heads so much and pointing fingers. I believe that the sheriff's department and the local law enforcement do their job, they'll be backed up by the DA's office. If the DA's office does their job, they can do pretrial diversion. They can get people out on mandatory probation without them letting them sit over their 90 days, which will also reduce the backlog of cases. When the DA's office works with the district court, what will happen is through their docketing process, we can ensure that we can get as many criminal cases moving forward as swiftly as possible and do as much as necessary by working together as one. I'm not saying that there's still a separation of powers, but there is still a sense of cooperation as opposed to a sense of resistance.
Anyone care to rebut any?
Yes, I would. I think that Ms. Brumbelow's perspective is a little bit naive, because she hasn't been working over here like Judge McDonald and myself have for the last 7 years. And there is a great relationship between the DA's office and law enforcement, and the DA's office and the county court of law, and the DA's office and the district judge. I think that's naive, because she hasn't been here. She doesn't know that, and that's not her fault. She's new to the system. We do work with the sheriff's office when there are indigent costs. They let us know when women are pregnant and they need to get out of jail. We get them out of jail quickly. No one has babies in the jail.
Any others? Ms. Brumbelow?
I don't believe I'm naive, because the first person should know you can't transfer a felony case down to a misdemeanor court.
Any others? Okay, our final question will go to Mr. Martin. It has been said that there are cases that will come before this district judge position that you as district attorney prosecuted, and therefore may need to recuse yourself from hearing. Is that true? And if so, how many cases are there, and what will be the cost to taxpayers to have those cases tried?
Well, that is true to every person that's standing on this stage. When Judge McDonald took the bench in 2011, there were cases that he wouldn't be allowed to be involved in. He would be disqualified if he has a personal interest. The same would be true for Ms. Brumbelow in any criminal case or family case. The cases that I would be disqualified from would be the cases that I have a personal participation and involvement in. Not every case that comes through the DA's office has my hands on it. Not every one of them has my signature. I would not be recused. I would not be disqualified from those. So my felony prosecutors that are handling their cases, I could preside over those cases. All of the misdemeanor cases, I haven't touched a misdemeanor case in 7 years. When you need cooperation in tandem between the district court and the county court of law, when you get the right personalities and the right men or women in that leadership role, then those two courts can work together. We haven't had that 7 years. You can have that next year between the district court and the county court of law. So any cases that I would be recused on or disqualified, I could have the county court of law judge handle, and I could go and handle the cases at the county court of law level.
Any rebuttals?
Well, I would disagree. At the district court, Mr. Martin doesn't handle any misdemeanor cases, so I do think it would cost the taxpayers, I think it's been estimated, of hundreds of thousands of dollars in visiting judges and court reporters. A visiting judge per day is $600 per day, And if you bring their court reporter as well, because you want to do some other things, that's another $350. So I didn't have to recuse myself from any conflict of law cases, but since you've been doing this for 8 years, you may not hear a single criminal case in the entire term, and you don't have any experience in the civil or family arena as well.
Rebuttal.
Yes.
The reason he didn't have to recuse himself is because he was not an active practicing attorney. He came in with little to no experience. He wasn't working here in Van Zandt County, so there were no cases that had his involvement in it. I would like the production of the hundreds of thousands of dollars, because I think what this illustrates is the judge's ignorance that visiting judges, you don't pay hourly. The state picks up the bill for the visiting judge. What the county has to pay is the per diem, which is the meals, the mileage, and I can handle misdemeanor cases because I don't work on those cases. I don't actively participate in those. So I'm not recused nor am I disqualified. But I would like the production of this is my request to you, Judge, of the estimated hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees.
Okay, next, Ms. Brumbelow.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to laugh at either one of you guys. I'm just kind of listening to this whole thing here. But I think one of the things that everybody's overlooking is how much it is actually going to cost the taxpayers, regardless. I want to make sure that it's very clear that my disqualification from cases would be minimal to none on the basis that I can pick and choose what cases I do and do not hear.
The reason it's minimal is because she doesn't handle that many cases in Van Zandt County. Any cases that I'm going to be recused on, I can go and have the county court at law judge come up. When we get a competent county court at law judge, then your district and your county court at law judge can work together in tandem. And that's what we can do. So if I'm recused on a felony case because I'm not a lame duck DA, I don't sit in the office and move papers. I get in there and try cases. Just like I'm trying a case tomorrow against a county commissioner in Smith County as a special prosecutor. I'm not lame, I don't sit around in the office. So there are cases I will be recused from, and those can be handled by the county court at law judge on assignment. Cost the taxpayers nothing.
Mr. McDonald, did you?
No response.
Okay, Mr.
I disagree with Mr. Martin when he says that I haven't handled many cases in Van Zandt County. What most people don't realize is I interned under Richard Davis in 2000, and I also practiced under him in 2001 and 2002. So not every case is going to have my name on it, but I will have legal expertise that are attached to those cases that would disqualify me.
Just to clarify, I'm not saying that she hasn't handled cases. I'm saying she's saying that the amount of cases that she won't have to be recused from is not going to cost any money. I'm saying she's not handling that many cases on the docket right now that would require recusal. Not that she hasn't handled them over the course of her career.
Thank you very much for the clarification.
Thank you all for going through the questions with us. We'll now have closing statements, 1 minute each, starting with Ms. Brumbelow. 1 minute.
Thank you very much for each and every one of you being here tonight. I don't think everybody realizes how important it is for you guys to come and support each and every one of the candidates here. This is a very hard thing for us to do, and we definitely appreciate your support. I believe I'm best qualified for this position because of my unique background, my high level of professional integrity. I have the energy, I have the knowledge to handle the demanding docket of the 294th Judicial District Court. Again, I'd like to continue the programs that have been in place by Judge Drum, and I thank you very much for hearing me tonight. If I've had the honor of owning your vote, thank you so much. If I hadn't, please find me later on, and I would love the opportunity to speak with you. And please, vote Tina Brumbelow beginning September the 20th, all the way through March the 2nd, and then again reaffirm it for those of you guys that hadn't voted on March 6th.
Mr. Martin, 1 minute.
Thanks, sir. I think you want a constructive leader in the district court. I think you want a leader that's got experience from top to bottom. Someone that knows how felonies work, capital murders work. I'm that candidate. It's neither of my opponents, okay? You want somebody with experience and know-how. How does the jail operate? How to present a balanced budget? How to be fiscal conservative? How to work within a dwindling budget? How to generate revenue? How to save money? How to improve efficiencies? How to create programs? I've done that as your DA. I've brought multiple enhancements to your criminal justice programs. I've brought revenue in through an aggressive asset seizure forfeiture program. I brought a victims advocate and a victims assistance program into the DA's office through no cost to the taxpayers. You want someone with vision, you want someone with leadership, you want someone who knows the difference in how to apply the law and not apply the politics and the personal interest. And you want somebody that you can trust to get the job done. And I've done that, and I'll do that again for you if I earn your vote.
And Mr. McDonald, 1 minute.
Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you to the other candidates. I am ready to step into this position on day one. If I'm elected, there will not be any need for any type of on-the-job training, and there will not be cost to the taxpayers as well. This county is important to me. My wife and I have raised our 6 children here in Zandt County. My youngest 2 children attend schools in Van in the 4th and the 11th grade, and my oldest son is currently deployed with the United States Air Force in Djibouti, Africa. I'm a lifelong Republican. I first voted for Ronald Reagan in 1980. I'm a pro-life conservative, and I'm the only candidate in this race that is endorsed by the Texas Right to Life. When you enter the voting booth, you're going to want to vote for someone who you trust and you are confident can do the job. I'm the only candidate in this race with judicial experience, and I would be honored to have your vote for the next district court judge. Thank you.